Lot of folks, we Detroiters, always going somewhere, forever intent on getting about. Of course, it would save a lot of time and trouble for all hands if we just stay put. But it seems that when a man's home, he has to go to work. And after a man gets through with his work, he has to go home, or anyhow, somewhere. Now, although we think of our town as the hub of the automobile world, still, it might be well to remember, certainly while looking at this particular picture, that there are 1,200,000 riders on the D.S.R. streetcars and buses every day, getting about safely, rapidly, and economically. Detroit has been in the transportation business only since 1902. Since the city took over the lines, our growth in area and in population has been vast, but the D.S.R. has done a great job of meeting the situation. What goes on back of the scenes should be of interest to every Detroiter. Take the Highland Park property as an example. Here are 30 acres of yards for storing cars and also more than 4 acres of floor space in the shops. 300 men are employed here in shop work, and a couple hundred others are at work in the Baker, Wyoming, Coolidge, Gratiot, Shoemaker, and Jefferson car houses. Maybe it never occurred to you that streetcars must be inspected regularly if they are to deliver the high standard of service demanded by the D.S.R. At intervals, a powerful hydraulic jack is placed under the car, and up goes 16,000 pounds of streetcar. Wouldn't that come in handy when you have to change a tire on a country road? Well, then when the city purchased the street railway lines, at least a third of the rolling stock consisted of old and out-of-date cars, many of them in such states of disrepair that it was necessary to junk them. The new management decided that a municipally owned system must take some pride in its equipment because, in a way, every car is a traveling representative of the city government. Several hundred new cars were bought, and those cars are kept spick and span by a year-round program of spray painting, striping, and varnishing. About 400 cars are completely done over every year. Nor is that all the effort expended in the cause of cleanliness. Each car is swept out every day, and each car is given a comprehensive bath on this shower rack twice a week. Just another way of creating rider appeal. For, of course, we'd all rather ride in the clean car than in the dirty one. After the trolley has been run back and forth in the spray, then the window washers go to work. Where are you going, boy? Here, come back here. Get to work shining up those windows. I never would get anything done around here if I weren't on the job to watch them. Now, here's quite a device. Sort of a turntable that doesn't turn. Perhaps you'd call it a shuttle. Anyhow, the car weighing 18 tons with the trucks is run on the movable platform that delivers it where it's needed. Maybe you'd like to know just how the Street Railway Department stands financially. Well, the lines purchased for $18 million, and there were bond issues of $36.5 million, a total of $53.5 million of bonded and contractual indebtedness. Since 1922, the department has reduced this indebtedness by $13.5 million and also has a sinking fund of better than $9 million to reduce obligations when they become due. So now, after 13 years of municipal operation, the railway system has a plant value of $6 million and a debt of only $31 million from an original investment of $53.5 million. Those are big figures, and I don't understand them very well either. But the experts say we're getting along splendidly with our streetcar system. More important to you and to me is the fact that we do have clean cars that run frequently and rapidly and cheaply and help us in getting about. Perhaps you don't know what makes our streetcars run. Well, it isn't so simple a matter as winding up a rubber band. Here in this city-owned powerhouse is created the energy that pushes the trolleys along the tracks. In 1 year, 112,000 tons of coal are burned. A drag scraper moves the coal from the yards where it is stored to an endless belt conveyor that carries the fuel to the bunkers at the rate of 200 tons an hour. The heat maintained in the boilers is 2,600 degrees, a little hotter than you need to make good burnt toast. These boilers are operated automatically from a control board that maintains the steam at 400 pounds pressure and at a temperature of 700 degrees. And their performance is continuously recorded on various meters that also are automatically operated. 4 massive turbines with a capacity of 20,000 horsepower convert the energy in steam into electrical energy at 13,000 volts. Then this electrical energy is distributed to substations over an intricate network of 136 miles of cable operating at 24,000 volts. The D.S.R. maintains 18 substations scattered about the city at strategic points with a total capacity of 45,000 kilowatts, and the switches automatically open and close. So closely are the various operations coordinated. Certainly takes a lot of men, a lot of machinery, and large quantities of coal, so there'll be action when the motorman turns on the power. Now, here's something else again. Now and then a trolley wire breaks. Time was, when the city first took over the obsolete equipment of the lines, that these repair trucks were dashing out at all hours of the day and night. Now the breaks occur on an average of only twice a month, which isn't bad at all. Don't worry if that repairman takes a hold of the trolley wire. He's in no danger unless, when he grasps the wire, he also places his foot on the track. And there hasn't been anybody big enough to do that since Paul Bunyan moved out of Detroit up into the North Woods. Well, you've seen how the cars are kept in first-class condition, how the power is generated to run them, how the wires are maintained to carry the power. And now we come to the next step, which is providing tracks for the cars to run on. Since the city took over the lines, 75 miles of new track have been built to provide extensions. Still another problem is to keep rails and roadbed in good condition. No more are rails simply bolted together with plates on each side. That's the old method, and it meant a more or less rough ride because inevitably the plates worked loose, and also there was always a space between the rail ends. Now the D.S.R. uses the most modern method. A mold containing a sand core is fitted tightly about the joint. Over the mold swings a pot in which magnesium and iron are mixed in a fusible combination. The magnesium is ignited, terrific heat is generated, and the molten iron runs into the mold, fusing the rails together. When the mold has cooled, it is broken, and the joint has completely disappeared. Instead, there are two pieces of steel transformed into one piece of steel. Now all that needs to be done is to grind off the surplus metal. It's much the same operation as in welding two parts of a steel automobile body. Steel is joined inseparably to steel for your comfort and safety. Remember another thing. Not only is this the best way to lay tracks, but also the D.S.R. does it without interrupting service on the line under construction. The new rails are laid beside the old ones on which the cars keep right on running. All that now remains is to secure the rails firmly in a concrete bed. The result is no makeshift repair job, but a reconstructed line. Practically the entire system has new rails and new roadbed, and the whole operation has been done thoroughly. Perhaps the most important function of this essential department of our city government is to carry Detroit to and from work. Business is good right now. Thousands of workers twice a day must be transported about the city to their jobs and back home again. Here in one plant are 30,000 men who daily ride the streetcars to the factory. The D.S.R. must be prepared every working day to deliver them on time. At the peak periods of the day, as many as 1,000 streetcars are operating in all parts of the city, carrying Detroit's industrial army. Those boys don't seem to be any hurry to get to work, do they? On the other hand, you'll observe that the shift coming off doesn't appear to be particularly eager to get away. With the cooperation of the D.S.R., an admirable arrangement has been perfected for loading the cars. The men go through a gate where they pay their fares, a gate that leads to one of 8 car lines. Thus, thousands are carried directly to their homes without paying another penny for a transfer, saving them many dollars. Such an arrangement as this can be possible only with a city-owned system that has the interests of the whole community at heart and is willing to sacrifice considerable income for the good of the greater number. Similarly, in other plants, the D.S.R. follows shifts and schedules so the workers can be moved efficiently. So, too, when there is a field day at Belle Isle, when the horses are running at the fairgrounds, when Garwood is churning up the river, in fact, when Detroiters assemble anywhere. Not forgetting, of course, the outpouring of fervid fans at Navin Field. The D.S.R. somehow finds out about it and wheels out a special detachment of streetcars to carry the citizenry. Now, suppose we look backward for a moment to that distant day when Detroit was only a sleepy village, long before we had electric cars, to say nothing of automobiles, sound pictures, prohibition, New Deals, radio, and all the other blessings of civilization in this century. Detroit calmly laid the foundation of its streetcar system in 1863. running horse cars on Jefferson Avenue. The next year, the company built an extension on Woodward Avenue that ran way out to Adams Avenue. 30 years later, in 1892, Detroit saw its first electric car, a bobbing Tunerville trolley. Finally, in 1896, the last horse car disappeared off the streets. But although the electrics were faster, still there didn't seem to be any more seats for the car riders. Folks getting about the city. Something had to be done, and the D.S.R. stepped up and did it. It was prohibitively expensive to build car lines into the more distant districts, so bus lines were established to make the system more flexible. Placing hundreds of buses on the streets meant establishing shops to service them. 325 employees spend their days poking around in the insides of all sorts of buses, old and new, in 6 garages, and here in the heavy repair shop at 2nd Boulevard and LaBelle Avenue, a building of 66,000 square feet. That big fellow over there weighs approximately 10 tons, but the lads juggle it around as though it were a kiddie car. They're mighty watchful of Blue Boy's nearly 700 men on its buses. These speedy vehicles that provide splendid transportation for thousands of Detroiters over 500 miles of city streets. It was 10 years ago that the Street Railways Department first began bus service to its patrons. In the beginning, the buses were intended to provide feeders in the outlying sections to the car lines. As the city grew in area and in population, and as the buses grew in popularity, the necessity for greater bus facilities increased until many of the routes developed from small feeder lines to main trunk lines. There are several sizes and shapes of buses. The trackless trolley bus, for example, operates on Plymouth Road, extending the privilege of transportation to a district that might otherwise have to hoof it downtown. In 5 years, the population of our city decreased 23% within the 3-mile circle, but at the same time increased 73% in the outlying districts. Something had to be done for those people, even though it meant to the department much longer hauls at a greater cost per passenger. And something was done, because this is your business. Remember that when you motorists stop on the car tracks to make a left turn. Holding up a streetcar or illegally parking at a bus stop to delay a bus means that you are selfishly holding up dozens of your fellow citizens for your own convenience. Those who drive automobiles can do a lot to help the D.S.R. maintain schedule. Over more than 450 miles of modern track glide fast-moving streetcars, and Detroit has the cheapest car fare anywhere in the United States, with the single exception of New York City. But in New York, the taxpayers must make up a deficit of around $15 million a year. In Detroit, the D.S.R. does not cost the taxpayers a cent. If the fare had been raised to the same rate paid by car riders in other cities, transportation would have cost Detroiters an additional $60 million since 1922. Not only has the department saved you $60 million, but it has also paid millions into the city treasury to help reduce your taxes. That's something to be proud of, stockholders. You citizens do own the D.S.R. Every time a bus or a trolley car rolls down the street, there's a stockholders meeting in motion. Yes, sir, it was certainly a smart decision that the electorate made in 1921 when the city was authorized by an overwhelming vote to purchase the railway system and run it for all the people instead of for a handful of stockholders. Now, let me show you graphically one thing that has been accomplished. For a 6-cent fare, you can ride from Redford to the City Hall, and then a penny transfer will carry you to the city limits out Jefferson Avenue, 22 miles for 7 cents. To travel the same distance would cost 76 cents by railroad train. And if you went by taxicab, the meter would click off $4.30 by the time you had reached your destination. This is the economical way of getting about. And also remember that Detroit is getting about the cheapest and best service in the country.